The rain fell like shards of broken glass that night, cold, sharp, and merciless. Ethan could barely see through the windshield as he drove along the lonely stretch of highway, his wipers struggling against the storm's fury. Then, through the veil of rain, he saw something that made his heart stop. A woman clutching a small child, standing helplessly in the downpour, her suitcase torn open on the muddy roadside as a car sped away. The sound of tires screeching, followed by the echo of a slammed door, cut through the thunder. She wasn't just stranded, she'd been thrown out. Before we go further into this heart-wrenching story of courage, compassion, and unexpected second chances, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Whispers of Kindness, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us bring more true and inspiring stories like this to life. Ethan pulled over immediately, his instincts overriding every hesitation. The wind nearly tore the door off as he stepped out, shielding his eyes from the rain. "Are you okay?" he shouted, his voice barely cutting through the storm. The woman turned toward him, soaked, trembling, her arms wrapped protectively around her child. The little boy couldn't have been more than 6. His small body shivered against her chest as lightning flashed, revealing tear-streaked cheeks and lips that quivered from the cold. "I don't know where to go," she stammered. "He threw us out. My husband, Her words broke apart in sobs. Ethan didn't ask another question. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around the boy, then helped them into his truck. The warmth of the heater filled the small cabin as the storm raged on outside. The woman sat silently, her hands trembling as she held her son close. Ethan glanced at them through the rearview mirror. She looked fragile, like someone who had been holding herself together for far too long. They drove in silence for several minutes until Ethan finally said, "I know a small diner up the road. We can get something warm to eat and figure things out." The woman nodded weakly. Her name, he later learned, was Lina, and her son's name was Noah. The diner lights flickered softly against the rain-streaked windows. Inside, the smell of coffee and fresh pie offered a small comfort against the storm outside. Ethan ordered 3 bowls of soup and watched quietly as Noah devoured his meal, spoon trembling in his tiny hand. Lina whispered, almost apologetically, "Thank you. You didn't have to stop." Ethan shook his head. "No one deserves to be left out there like that," he said simply. He didn't talk much about himself, but the faint shadows in his eyes told their own story. He had been through storms too, just of a different kind. 2 years ago, Ethan lost his wife to cancer, leaving him alone with his daughter, Maya, who was now 8. Life had become a series of quiet battles, juggling work, school runs, grief, and loneliness. As they sat there in the soft hum of the diner, something in Lina's eyes, that fragile hope, reminded him of the way he used to look in the mirror when he didn't know how to keep going. By the time the rain had eased, it was past midnight. Ethan offered them a place to stay, the guest room in his small home on the outskirts of town. Lina hesitated at first, but the look of exhaustion on Noah's face made the decision for her. When they arrived, Ethan carried the sleeping boy inside, his small arms hanging limp around his neck. Maya, woken by the sound of the door, peeked out of her room, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, who's that?" Ethan smiled softly. "Just someone who needed a little help tonight." Maya's sleepy gaze fell on Lina and the boy, and she simply said, "He can have my teddy bear. It helps me sleep when I have bad dreams." That small act, pure, innocent kindness, broke something open in Lena's heart. She pressed her hands to her face and wept silently. 2 days turned into weeks. Lina found herself helping around the house, cooking, folding laundry, walking Maya to school when Ethan had to leave early for work. Noah and Maya became inseparable, their laughter filling the once quiet home. Slowly, Lina began to smile again. She told Ethan she had worked as a nurse before her marriage, but her husband had forced her to quit. Ethan helped her find a part-time job at a local clinic, and she began to rebuild her life piece by piece. But the world has a way of testing people just when they start to heal. One evening, as they all sat down for dinner, a black SUV pulled up outside. The sound of a door slamming made Lina go pale. It was him, her ex-husband, Travis. He stormed up to the porch shouting, "Lena! You think you can just run off with my kid?" Ethan stood before the door, his jaw tightening. "You need to leave." Travis sneered. "And who are you? Her savior?" "No," Ethan said calmly. "Just a man who believes in doing what's right." Travis shoved him, but Ethan didn't move. You lost your right to call yourself a husband or a father the night you threw them into a storm. Lena stepped forward then, her voice trembling but steady. No, Travis, you don't get to control me anymore. You broke me once, you won't again. When the police arrived, called quietly by a neighbor, Travis was taken away for violating a restraining order she had filed months earlier. Lena broke down in tears, but this time they weren't from fear. They were from relief. 2 months passed. Spring replaced winter, and the once broken woman who stood shivering in the storm was now strong, independent, and full of life again. She found an apartment nearby, but still visited Ethan and Maya often. Their bond had grown into something deeper, something neither of them had planned, yet both quietly cherished. One afternoon, as the kids played in the garden, Ethan turned to her. "Funny thing about storms," he said softly. "They destroy a lot, but sometimes they bring people to where they're meant to be." Lena smiled through tears. "You didn't just save us that night, Ethan. You gave us a home when we had nothing." Before we continue to the end of this beautiful story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to Whispers of Kinness, and comment below what part of this story touched your heart the most. Your engagement helps more people find these stories of hope and humanity. That summer, the two families became one. Ethan and Lena didn't rush things. Love grew naturally, through shared breakfasts, small laughter, and the quiet comfort of knowing they were no longer alone. On a warm evening, beneath a sky painted in orange and gold, Ethan took Lena's hand and said, "That night, when I saw you and Noah in the rain, I thought I was helping someone in need, but now I realize you were sent to help me too." Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "Maybe that's how God works. He sends us storms so we can find shelter, not just in walls, but in hearts." As their children ran through the fading light, their laughter echoing like music, Ethan pulled her close. The rain had long stopped, but the memory of that storm would always remind them that sometimes the most beautiful beginnings come from the darkest nights.